Hi, everyone. Welcome
Hey,
to our Fireside Chat. Super excited for you to be joining today. Today, I have the great honor to be hanging out with one of the most thoughtful folks and my favorite folks to chat about around the topic of OKRs and planning. And we'll be chatting through how Miro bridges the planning and execution gap. Not a big surprise with Miro and Coda. Well, let's get started. So, like I was saying, today we're hosting a fireside chat. A little introduction for myself before I pass it off to Miro. So, my name is John. I've been using Coda for almost exactly 7 years. I was actually an early beta user, joined the company just a year later. So, it's my 6 year anniversary, and I've held almost every position here. So, customer success, sales, support, professional services, even a little bit of like product design side of the house. I don't know if you knew this, Ilia, but I was a 2013 user of Real-Time Board when I needed to
no way.
collaborate with my European and Singaporean counterparts when I was in a small town in Vermont, which then later became Miro. And so, yeah, I've been a big fan of the Miro application for quite a while as well. A little context on like myself and how I came into this. I actually met Ilya. What was that? 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah, like
He was
like
working
five
at
years, I
Phantom,
think.
so I think
Yeah.
this is the right time to pass it off to your side of the house to give a little background.
Yeah, that's great. And excited to hear your story about using Miro and Coda. And I think I've been using both tools also for about like 5 years. So, and I'm really excited that today we are talking about a topic that I really love, strategy and execution, and the two tools that are really great for that. But a little bit about me. I'm working at Miro as a head of product operations. And previously in my career, I had some product leadership experience, UX design experience. But majorly, I realized that like building systems and empowering teams, this is something that I really love. And this is where I am right now, working with the strategy, plans, execution tool systems to ensure that Miro is empowered, built great products.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Ilya. We actually had a very similar conversation to this almost what was it 8 9 months ago, right at the end of a planning season, and it was
Mhm.
with just a few other operations leaders. And so when Ilya and I were talking a few months ago about doing something similar, we were super excited to invite others into this. So this is going to be way less presentation, even way less just us talking with each other. And super excited to open it up for an AMA. We'll drop the link in the chat for asking questions, but feel free to ask questions throughout the session today. And really excited to have you join us in the conversation. All right. So, what do you say we give a little background on what
Yeah.
we'll be chatting today? So, yeah, what are the situations we're going into? Would love to hear more.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's like we can say that every company has one or another goal setting framework. For some companies, it's OKRs, but there are like now tons of them on the market right now. And at Miro, we also use OKRs. And like with all of the OKRs implementation, it usually goes through like many stages until it really establishes like really good foundations and like there is like nothing to change right now in the process, so like everyone is happy with OKRs. And the same time, we experienced a few problems that I noticed in like many organizations that are pretty repeatable. Then like four of them, we have like much more overall, but I would say these are the like top four. And number one, what I believe is this like disconnection of like main three areas. We can say there's like strategizing part, there's like planning part with goals and key roadmaps, and then there's execution, which is also very important uh, building block for these things. The second is, and this is where like Miro and Coda specifically comes in place, tooling house, and it's great if we have like right solutions for the right parts of the process. But what I saw like many other companies that there can be like 5, 7, 10 different tools that are responsible for different parts of strategizing, planning, execution, it's like it can be really messy. And about the complexity, that's also like with the scale of the organization, this is oftentimes we can add more layers of our plannings, more items in the roadmaps, more connections like from the company to all of the other layers, like functional team layers and to individuals. And the system can be really very complex. And the 4 is about the accountability. So like 1, 2, 3 can work really well, and without right accountability, the execution will not happen. So this is why I think like these 4, when they are solved all together, this is the great foundation again to build a right solution from strategy to execution.
And I'm curious for the folks who are joining, what problems are you finding? Are you more of like a 1 and 2? I feel like those are totally coupled. A 3, did you just come from a very large company or the leadership came from a large company? Maybe you're a smaller company and there's like too many levels of OKRs and you like clear that up. Or is it like that move from strategy into execution, lack of accountability? But excited to hear other challenges that you might have as well. These are just the Ilia and John painting the world and trying to simplify the many problems into 4 problems. All right. Part of the solution, I'm curious your perspective on this as well. Since this visual came from Miro, this is very much like the world in which you operate as well. Is oftentimes in like a discovery or brainstorm or like very pie in the sky strategic perspective, you have like all these possibilities and a lot of the like ways forward in which you architect it are loose and super unstructured. And then you often move to this like define category of, okay, we're starting to like narrow down. It's becoming a bit clear and crisper in what we're doing. And oftentimes there's like this big jump from something that's like very unstructured to something that's super structured on the delivery side. So part of what we'll be talking about, actually almost all of what we'll be talking about today,
Mhm.
is how you like bridge this gap and move it from the discovery phase into the delivery phase. I just love this visual that came from the
Yeah.
Miro side of the house.
And maybe one thing to hear. So this is what we believe is kind of the innovation cycle. And the speed of innovation is really important. And this is why, like what you said, if there is like long time between the stages and also many tools that we need to use to just go through these cycles, then innovation cannot happen. And then kind of speeding this up and making sure that things are connected really improves the speed and the quality of innovation.
And it applies to so much. Like we're talking about the strategic planning into execution for essentially an entire company, but this works as like a double diamond within a very small agile team for product development. There's a ton, like we said, innovation. Any of those like R&D, innovation, skunk works type project teams outside of the normal day to day operations. So I just like love the way it frames it up. We're moving from something very unstructured like discovery into something very structured in delivery side of the house. It's not a surprise you joined a Miro and Coda fireside chat that we think that the very like unstructured Discover is like very like well designed within a whiteboard, direct manipulation, Miro kind of free form type surface, and that like more structured once you start defining and execute is really done and well on the Coda side. So here's just like a example illustration of what that might look like because I know that a few folks are Miro clients but aren't Coda clients yet, and then vice versa, Coda clients and are Miro clients yet, of moving some of that high level brainstorm into a Coda doc and then structuring it with like pages and tables. And we'll chat way more. This is just like a very loose illustration of what that can look like.
Hmm. Yeah. And also like in reality, I think even you can look at the Miro side when you have like hundreds of comments everywhere and like sticky notes. And then you go to Coda, it's like really neat and structured. And like this is the difference, but they together fit the main problem that we're trying to solve with all of this. Yeah.
Well, the Coda side is usually chaotic. You usually just have an ops person like yourself who
Yeah.
wrangles them all together and structures it and keeps things all buttoned up.
Cool.
All right, awesome. So what I'll do is we're going to move into just a normal chat. We like Ilya said, we have a ton of actual visuals of how Miro goes through the like strategic planning into execution process. So I'll pull that up when it feels relevant. But at this moment, what I'll do is stop the screen share and just hop into a casual chat. So I know we heard a bit about it, like your journey and what you're discovering as you're doing operations in the strategic planning to execution process. But I would just love to hear more about your perspective, whether it's product ops or the C suite of like what are you finding the biggest challenges are from that planning to execution?
Yeah, I think there are a few, and we discussed a little bit at the beginning. One of them has this first disconnection of things. So when strategy, plans, and execution are completely disconnected, or overall like absence of things when there is strategy in place, but there is no clear understanding of how the execution will work, or there is like no strategy and leaders are only focused on the execution, but they in the end like they do not know whether they move the needle and like change anything in the company because like there's no clarity in this. So this is one. The second is when leaders drop the cross-functional alignment, and it's like like at all levels. It is on strategic level when like some teams are not aligned in the strategy we have, and then I think the most important is on the project level because like this is where the work has been done, and if these projects are executed only in one part of the organization, but especially if we work like in tech products, especially if it's like single product or like few products company, you have multiple teams like marketing, sales, product, engineering, and many others that are working on the same product. And this cross-functional alignment is crucial. And I think it is like not happening during all of these three stages sometimes. One more thing is about treating plan as real plan. So yeah, because plans are like, there are targets for sure, and there are like roadmaps, and the roadmaps usually are our bets. These are our hypotheses, and when we like have not bets but really plan that we should execute during the next 6 months exactly these things, and that's it. So this is where I think learning doesn't happen. And the last thing is about focusing, for example, only on people and not building systems to support this transition from plan to execution, or vice versa, focus on the systems, but then just forget about enabling and empowering people. Like systems can work, but they do not work without people, especially like now when AI is not so powerful. But it's coming.
Oh man, I feel like we can just talk the rest of our time about all the things you brought up there.
Yeah.
So starting with the first one, I've actually been in both cases. I don't know if you have as well. With the first one, where leadership team thinks that the write up or the presentation is like the end of their job,
Yeah.
and they like put all of this effort in frameworks, in goal setting, and creating a really clear path. And maybe it is quite exciting, but then as an employee, you leave that presentation, you sit down at your desk and you're like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like I have this daily task list. There's clients asking me questions. I'm getting a ton of product feedback. Like, how's the strategy actually going into my day to day? And then I've been in the totally opposite case where you have micromanagers, or I think the founder mode is the way that people explain it these days, where
Yeah.
you have C-suite just like going into the daily operations and just totally over managing and like not giving enough autonomy for the team to actually like make choices or pivots or actually like play out the bets long enough to see if they'll work
Mhm.
or not.
Oh yeah, that's like everyone is talking about right finding the right balance, and it's so
Yeah.
hard to do this. But it's basically that's it, finding how all of the components work well. Yeah.
The other thing that you brought up around like the people and systems, I know when we were first talking about this, you're like, I love systems, but I also love people.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you could talk a bit more about like how OKRs and even planning applies to people, because I feel like goal setting is change management. and like being able to implement change within the company is usually quite hard. And you're doing it like every quarter and every month. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah. For me, this is the problem number 4 that we had, this accountability. So like I think on like all levels, if we talk about the strategy, like key strategic pillars, there should be accountable leaders. Then we go to OKRs. For all of the KRs, there should be accountable leaders, or in some cases even ICs, if it's like very important, but very connected to one dedicated team with IC as a front person of this team. And I think like when the accountability is clear, in the all levels in the company, I think this is already how people are enabled. The second is just about the connection. So like if people are connected to each other, if they can share concerns, if they disagree and they can share their disagreement and explain, I think that's super important, especially during the planning stage, because this is not about like robotic. We are going step 1, put the OKRs, then step 2, like delegate roadmap planning, and then step 3, like allocate resources. No, I think like we are all working in very dynamic environment, and this is I think we also discussed this like W models, when you start from company, then go to the team level, then there's feedback back to the company level, to the leadership, and then it's like again, and there are like few steps of collaboration connection where the end result is clear for everyone and people agree with this. This is for me like very important people aspect.
I'm that the W model's super common. I've seen it a ton in like product management communities of how we go from tops down, the bottoms up, and kind of find like the right balance as the output in the planning. I'm curious for the people aspect of it. So there's the executive kind of brainstorming tops down part, but then also like the integration. How have you seen Miro creating like psychological safety around these like brainstorming big ideas, both culturally as a company, but also like what activities are you doing in Miro to help with that?
That's a great question, and we'll also, I think, talk a little bit later about this kind of structured versus unstructured part.
Yeah.
And for me, what is great about Mira, that it's kind of, if I'm like a little kid and I have a blank canvas and a pen, I can do whatever I want there, and like there are no limits. And I think with Miro, it's even better because the canvas is infinite, and you can go like to all the places. So, and this I think like psychologically enables people to just put wherever you think, like in whatever format you want. And this is for me, this enables the creativity first. And because like, and people can bring comments there, and then there will be new cards, sticky notes, pictures, tables, and like everything. Uh, and yeah, there's kind of in our loops, this is discovery loop, which is happening super fast. Yeah, and I think like the nature of Mira is just bring this super fast loops, and then yeah, this is where collaboration happens.
I don't know if I ever told you this. So I'm not a great writer, or at least when I joined Coda, I wasn't a great writer. And coming to such a document heavy culture, the blank page with the blinking cursor is very intimidating when I'm starting any sort of like planning memo strategy doc. And so I was known as the person internally to always bring some sort of Miro whiteboard visualization to it because it is less intimidating. You know, you just like throw sticky easy mind map, you can throw out 90% of the ideas. It's okay. It's meant to be that like sandbox before you actually implement any sort of thing that's like structured plans, bullets, tables. So I love that.
That's cool, yeah. And I think like funny thing that at Miro, the guy was the person that brought more and more of the structure and using Coda. we are agents.
Well, yeah. You can't keep things in a sandbox. Otherwise, like the waves will come, knock down your sandcastle. You like
That's
put
true.
some more structure around it.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm curious, and I'm actually really excited to like look at some of the things that you've been talking about. What's the most painful part for like your role, product ops of planning? And you don't have to get too spicy or specific
Mm.
with Miro. Let's talk like generally you as a product operator, and what are some things that you did to solve those?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is understanding the reality, especially if the organization is like more than 100, 300, 500, 1,000 people. Uh, like it's like easy to have hidden work somewhere. It's easy to have disengaged teams and even like big areas. It's easy to have like multiple roadmaps everywhere. And like all of this, I think creates this like strange situation when you want to build a plan, you want to build a like clear execution, but then it should start from understanding, okay, where we are right now. And I found this sometimes extremely hard to get this picture. So I would say for the like product operations, this is the number one challenge, to understand the reality, and then based on this, define, okay, what problems should we solve, and then how to organize this, and then what tools should we use. But I think, yeah, it all starts with like clarity on where we are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So many
Mm,
orgs are so different, even if they like look the same from the outside. You join and they have their like idiosyncrasy. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. You want to jump into some of how you actually did it?
Yeah, and I think we can talk about the tools. Uh,
Yeah. So the big question that I have is like, how's the thing structured? So maybe you can talk to me. How do you actually move from objectives all the way through into projects? And then I'm a visual person. I think you are too. Like, how's this actually look at Miro and using Coda?
yeah. I love this topic, especially because this combination of Mira being very focused on this, like now on the discovery part, and we are developing like more and more capabilities, but still like this is our like main use case for the organizations. And Coda being like very structured and focusing on different areas as well. Um, like we realized that for the like building the initial view of the like OKRs and initiatives and projects, I think Miro is great because what we can do, we can put sticky notes on the board, we can discuss this, we can bring as much people we want. Yeah, I think that this picture is amazing. So we can see here like 33 commands in one area, like 18 in another, like different frames with like different names, and it shouldn't be like super clear for everyone who will open this board what is where, because I think the main goal here is collaboration. The team that spend time here together and then asynchronously, and then get back to meetings or even like real offsite discussions. They know about what are they talking about, and they have tons of content here. So this is why I think it's like super easy to create new frame, put the data, and then discuss. And this stage, I think, is really great here. Uh, and then kind of slowly based on this information, we are adding more structure. Like the next frame is kind of, we already have this, like KRs area and like additional content data and like some, you even see some tables, even though it's just a frame. It's not a like structured tables right now. Uh, but yeah, like we have more and more clarity on what are the KRs. Yeah. And then like next we are getting into Coda. And this is where source of truth for OKRs already uh, lives. And you can see here, for example, we can track the progress. We see who is responsible. we can have some traction on the status, like on track, blocked. We can have the real numbers, like baseline, targets, and everything. And what I think is great about this, that we spend like enormous time just discussing and like free flow to ensure that we are all thinking in one direction. We are creative about solving the problems, and then we're switching to another mode, basically for us execution mode. And because these things are connected, what we have discovered on the first stage, we continue this with Traction and Coda. I think this is the great connection. And then, for example, we can review OKRs again, and then we can do presentation. Presentation is also great in Miro, and then we can get back to the traction again. So this is for us the power of this connection.
Yeah, and something as I've been diving deeper into the two tools, so I always use Miro and Coda alongside each other, either jumping back and forth between them or embedding things within each other. And we just launched the integration where we can take some of those sticky notes and pull them directly into Coda, and then vice versa. A lot of this data can pull back up into Miro. So I'm really excited about, well, your team using it and finding like other use cases for bridging that gap, because a lot of the times teams are using both tools, like a very whiteboardy brainstorming tool and something a bit more structured, whether it's Coda or like an actual OKR or project management tool.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we've like moved into here, I'd love to hear more about this traction ritual for accountability. I'll just pull up some of these slides, but yeah, let's hear how does this is implemented? How does it work? Let's hear more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you open, there is a slide with blocks with the timeline.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Uh-huh. Yeah. Is this one or even like the next one? Yeah. So for the traction, we have two main areas. One is that we have a monthly ritual for extended leadership team where we track OKRs, and you can see in this picture. So it's like very important part of our organization, our rhythm. And we have like all of the updates for all of the KRs in Coda. Before that, there can be separate meetings within the KR or objective team, so they will discuss things there. And then there's like OKR traction for main objectives with, we call this XLT, Extended Leadership Team DRIs. And what's important here, that if you click to the next picture, that it based on the very important weekly ritual that happens like for the whole company for initiatives and projects that are updated weekly with statuses and small definitions. And the leadership team, like the C-suite, they meet weekly as well. And if they have any questions about what's going on with this KR, they can open this and trace to the all of the initiatives and projects. And like we have usually like big cross-functional initiatives, and then like functional or cross-functional but smaller projects. For the leadership team, they have the tool now to really look at what's going on in the at the depths of the execution. And this for me, this became a game changer for the team, because like now the whole company was connected, and it's like always clear, like every week, to understand where we are right now, and what's going on, and what are the blockers, and where and how do we want to improve our path to our targets. So yeah, like again, summarizing, we have like monthly ritual, which is synchronous, and then we have weekly asynchronous updates, plus leadership team also meeting weekly, and like every functional team is also like they are meeting weekly, and sometimes they look into the what's going on with all of the projects and initiatives that contribute into KR. So I think like this is really empowering us right now to have a better connection between strategy and execution.
Yeah. And it's so small here, but I think this is one of the biggest points.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about from a systems and people's
Yeah.
perspective, like what's your like rhythm? Like what's the
Mm-hmm.
heartbeat of the org?
Yeah.
And it's really well, it's the people doing the projects and doing the work, but these forums allow leadership to like infuse strategy, keep things going, help unblock, and really be like a partner rather than someone who just like kind of like flops it off to the team or is like way too much in the weeds and getting into random topics. Like you've created this forum for people to move forward. It's accountable, but it's not like boring. There's like big topics that are coming up and you're working through them.
Yeah, I agree. And in case of Miro, like I think about like 2 years ago, the heartbeat of the organization was slower. And I think this is what helps us like really move fast right now, because like we are increasing this heartbeat. And like again, I think it was like about 2 years ago, the leadership team was meeting for the OKRs review like once a quarter, and then introduced like monthly OKRs cadence, and then we added this like I think it was like bi-weekly initiatives review. Then we switched recently to weekly cadence for initiatives and projects, and now like we have this weekly rhythm, and it's really it is accelerating the whole organization. So this is
Yeah.
one of the great changes that we've implemented.
I feel like that's a common pattern too that we see in like agile organizations where you move to like the daily stand up or like the weekly team sync, and it just allows you to change courses and adjust and just be like way more agile in your operations because as you know, even quarterly goals change like
Mhm.
all the time. And what you originally set out to do may not be what you want to achieve by the end of the quarter. So having like these very long planning processes with like a ton of work that goes into it and leadership only checking in at the very end of have we hit the goal or not, like doesn't really apply in areas that like the market's changing, the products are changing, AI is changing so fast and it's coming into
Mhm.
product development a ton.
Yeah, fully agree.
Okay, I'm a visual person. Let's take a look at what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
So here's that monthly ritual, and if you just talk to me about like how this thing is designed, and I actually like the weekly one is essentially the same too. It's
Mhm.
same design, same patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, for weekly, well, we don't have like leadership meetings like for like all of the teams, but again, like exec team, C-suite, they meet weekly and they have availability to just look at OKRs. The main idea that like when there is this like monthly ritual, we have like all of the OKRs, initiatives, and projects having all of the updates. And usually, like one of the format that we use, we are discussing, we're like explaining are there any changes in the milestone, like what is the next milestone for the project, and what is the date for this milestone. Then we can talk about what are the like meaningful progress, and then what are the blockers. And at least like these three things already enough to understand what's going on with this. And then when the team meets together, then usually there is like priority of what do we want to discuss. We have like hand raisers functionality, or like just questions in Coda that are like multiple things. But then the main goal is basically to discuss what's critical, and we also have status, and we can sort by like, okay, what is like from blocker to want to make it to like at risk to on track. And then we start from the beginning. Okay, what are the blockers? And then like we're discussing. Usually like we have like meeting notes, and even in our case we have like action items column where we just put action items with responsible people. And I think this is really important again to make it tangible and to focus on what's important. So in this case, distraction meetings work really well.
I love the pattern of like the less discussed, you point and click, it like stack ranks it
Mhm.
automatically for you, or the raising the hand. That's a pattern I've seen with a ton of other clients. Figma deploys it, Lyft and Spotify as well, just to like raise the biggest problems. You're spending really important live time
Mhm.
together. And these status meetings can be really boring if you go round robin, right? It's like, okay, we just
Yeah.
start at the top, we go to the bottom, and by the end of the presentation, you're like, okay, I could have done that
Yeah.
sync, right?
3
And
out of 50 completed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And not. I'm curious, like, how is some of that dynamic changing of being able to like prioritize the problems, work through them? What are you seeing as some of the impacts of that?
I would say this is how we are just getting better in terms of focusing on what's important. And I think that's the challenge for like all of the organizations, how to keep focus. And when we are focusing on what requires leadership attention right now, and these are like hand raisers or blockers mostly, then kind of by unblocking these things, we can really move on faster. At the same time, what I think is great to just have weekly cadence of all of the updates. Then leaders can just open the areas that are important for them, like that any day. Yeah, and then this allows them to just say, okay, this is like something is wrong with this update, even if it's like it is on track, but then in the description there are things that are clearly not on track for one of the leaders, and then they can raise questions outside of the meeting. They can discuss, they can unblock, and they can move on faster as well. So I think this is again the combination of like prioritization, very important things during the meetings, and then availability to see everything actual in the systems.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. All right. I didn't prep you on this one. I have a lightning round of questions, so we'll see how fast we can get through them. Um, let's say I'm someone new in product ops. What would be maybe one or two books or videos or whatever that you would recommend that they read? It's a new profession. It's a new space. There's probably not an entire book
Yeah.
on product ops yet.
I would say like there are different sources of product ops managers. I think one of them is like from operational teams and another from product. So I would say if you are coming from the operational background, do the like explore the product topic. So like Marty Kagan with all of the books, like all of the startup books, like Eric Ries and all of the other folks that
Yeah.
explain well. Yeah, I would say this is great priority. Uh, from another perspective, like I still love the like high output management. That's a pretty old book, but at the same time, like some concepts are a bit outdated. But I would say like if you wanted to build this understanding of the operational approach, which is very business oriented, this is still great thing to explore.
I love the fusion of the profession. And I feel like when I started working with you as a product operator, that was like one of my first experiences working with someone in product ops and what I perceived the role to be, which was this hybrid of operations and product. I've seen it play out in different ways as like
Yeah,
a support person that then like reports into the customer's org, and there's like a bunch of different roles. But I love the way in which it's like the profession is being crafted in Miro.
cool.
All right, Mad Libs. If I wasn't using OKRs, then I would.
uh, Good question. So I would first understand how a strategy is written, because sometimes there are like clear bets with targets. And this is also great. There can be like modern frameworks like NCTs, like there's like narrative, commitments, tasks. There can be just goal chains. And I think that's still relevant because like with OKRs, we have this mindset of like 70% of achievement and other things. I think that can be like KPIs that like work for like more operational businesses, or just again goal chains that just a bigger goal and transforming into the like goals of the next level. Uh, and I'd say like again, there are many different frameworks, and OKRs is one of the most popular. I think the problem is not with the framework. The problem is how this framework really fits the organization. And here we can talk about the org structure that can be connected with the goal setting framework or not. Then like strategy overall that can be connected with goal setting or not. Then our like vision and culture, that's also important because like there can be organizations that are like less rigor in terms of goal setting and more thinking about the like environment people, and they have they can have different approaches, and that can work for them. Or like this like old red, that's called in the like spiral dynamics, red organizations that are super strict on like KPIs everywhere, and this system fits them. So I would say like think about this first. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. All right. If folks want to learn more, what should they check out? The first answer is a bit leading. I'll share this as a lead behind in the chat and in the video uploading as well. Maybe Ilya, if you could just share a high level overview of what you've been putting together with us.
Yeah. This I think our like second or third version, because we like discussed, we created, and I love the collaboration. We built some systems, we iterated together. But for me, there are like three main areas here. Like one is about this like solving the problems of too many things for like planning and execution. The second is about this like tracking rituals that I was talking today about, and here, yeah, like all of the connection problems and how to solve them. And
Like
this
all good
is,
Coda docs worth
yeah,
publishing. It's a living document, so work in progress. You'll see
it's
sometimes
true.
in there.
Yeah, and number three is about tooling, because yeah, we're talking about Miro and Coda, and there are a few examples of how do we use this. But again, like the major ideas are like combining the structured and unstructured collaboration and make it work for you.
Cool. Yeah, super excited to publish this. If you're watching this video, it's probably uploaded at the time of this recording. We're just doing a final riff before we share it with the world. So yeah, super excited to share that. Any other resources that you would like to leave behind before we hop off?
I would say like also from the book's perspective, maybe there is a like new book from Melissa Perry about product operations, and because that's I think the only big and comprehensive book for this area, and they also cover this like strategy execution blocks. I would say still go and read it. Like I can say some things I fully agree. For some things, like I have different opinion, but that's the depth of the product operations, and that's great that you have now this opportunity to learn from one of the I think strongest expert in this area.
Cool. Any final words, Ilya, on
Mhm.
product ops, OKRs, planning, hot takes?
Yeah, I think we discussed this a bit. Like it's still like it all starts with people, and people means connection. So I truly believe that to build a great organization when everything works, you should build the connections. And if connections are working real well, well, like there are no unsolvable problems. And another perspective, when the connection is not working well, then the problems just became bigger and bigger. So
Yeah. Yeah, and part of like a very good ritual is also therapy. You know, you're working through things together, you're solving problems, you're supporting. Sometimes there's like interpersonal challenges, sometimes structural within the org. But like
oh, yeah,
if you have that like weekly I'm working through with it, that's great.
yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate the time today, and hope you learned something that you can bring back to your teams. Again, doc is published. You can bring it. Maybe we'll add some of the book and resources recommendations as well by the time we publish it.